Ho, ho, holy shit. Have you seen our revamped merch? Woo, whether you're celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, or just the miracle of your family actually getting along this year despite everything, we've got you covered. New designs, new items, premium hoodies and tees so soft they make Santa's beard jealous. Plus bar essentials that'll transform your holiday gatherings from holiday fear to holiday cheer. 8 nights of Hanukkah, that's 8 chances to remind everyone that good tequila and great merch bring people together. All exclusive at clubrandom.com. 'Tis the season to get random. You know, the holidays, twinkly lights, ugly sweaters, and more festive drinks than any adult actually needs. And somewhere between the office party and the family toast, you think, I still have things to do tomorrow. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Make the most of every toast this holiday season. Go to zbiotics.com/random to get 15% off your first order with code RANDOM. It's backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. Seriously, try it. If you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, start with the basics. Start with True Classic. It's tailored where you want it, relaxed where you need it. No bunching, no stiff fabric, no BS. Trust me, it's going to be the nicest t-shirt you own. You will literally feel the difference when you try it on, just like my staff did. At least I know what I can get them for Christmas. You can find them at Amazon, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club, or head to trueclassic.com/random to grab the perfect gift for everybody on your list. I don't know. I'm not a virgin,
In other words,
so I don't know the answer.
Well, we have to stop that. The question is, how do you stop that?
Well, first of all, you have to want to.
Club Random.
It's not funny at all.
Exactly my point. They were just happy to have the war over.
Club Random.
How are you, pal?
Good. How you doing?
I mean, I don't really know you that well, but I feel like I do. I feel like you're my pal because I'm such a fan here.
Oh, thanks.
And all the, I think we have met, though.
We did. I thought we met that you came in for a role in something.
Oh, my God, that long ago.
That long ago.
When I was looking for roles.
Yeah, and you came in and we met.
Holy fuck. What, do you remember the project?
No. It was a half-hour show.
Oh, it was a TV show.
Yeah, it was a half-hour TV show.
It was not the lead in Rain Man.
No, no, it wasn't that.
I did read for Top Gun in 1983.
Did you really?
Sure. I was 27. I don't know if it was for the Tom Cruise role, but it was 1983. I was 27. They needed soldiers. I was the right age for a soldier. Yeah.
There you go.
So, but a TV show, and you don't remember what show this was?
I can't remember. Maybe it'll come to me as we talk. But it didn't. I think it was. We did I think 6 episodes, and then it was short-lived. And I was originally going to direct it, but then they wanted to do it as a video thing, rather than camera. So it's all done all at one go. And I just said, I'm not really fond of doing that, so I backed out of directing it.
See, I always thought our connection was my buddy, comic buddy, who I started with, Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
And, we had a mutual friend, sadly now departed, Michael Hampton Caine, and he and Paul were out buying underwear one day, and he had an audition for Diner. Michael did.
Yes.
And Paul was just tagging along.
Right.
You remember this?
No, I know the story.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I remember.
And he got the part.
No,
obviously.
I'd tell you what happened on the other side of it then. Ellen Chenoweth, who was the casting director, she said, there's a guy out there. He came with his friend. They're going somewhere afterwards. I don't know what.
Buying underwear. I'm telling you.
And she said, I'm listening to him talk, and I like his rhythm. It seems good.
Yeah.
And she said, but I don't think he's ever done anything. I said, well, I'll meet him. So he came in, we talked.
You hadn't done much by then, right? We're talking about 1982.
This is the first, this would be my first chance to direct.
Yes, I know.
And he came in and we talked for about 20 minutes, half hour. And when he left, I said to Ellen, I said, we have to use him. I just got to figure out the character, and then I'm going to work with him. It'll be good. And
I mean, that rhythm that he has, which is all his, they used to say that he took it from Richard Lewis. There is a similarity there, but he didn't take it from Richard Lewis.
no,
right?
that's the way he talks.
It's the way he talks. And so does Richard Lewis, to a degree.
Yes.
I mean, I could see why people would say that. But sometimes Jews just sound alike. There, I've said it. Jews all sound, not all, but, and that's what it was. And they're funny.
Yeah, no.
I mean, a lot of that movie was ad lib, right?
That's how, well, with Paul, like if we were, I remember late at night, and we still had a little time left, and I said, why don't you talk to Eddie, the character, Gutenberg is playing that, and just say, are you going home? And he says, of course I'm going home. It's 4 a.m, I said, why don't you just you want to ride, but you don't want to talk about it. And then I told that to Gutenberg, and then we put together a scene. And it ends one of the evenings at the diner.
I mean, it was kind of an early version of what, like, Curb Your Enthusiasm does. Right? You're just telling them, you're not giving them a specific dialogue.
Right.
You're just saying, this is the scene. These are funny people, funny comic actors, but comedians, kind of both. And you do it. It'll look more natural, and it'll come out funnier than people reading dialogue.
Right. No.
That's
and that was the fun part of it. The only thing I had to figure out, and we also had to, I didn't know it at this time. When we started to do that, I said, "Oh, that's a take. And the audio guy said, "Well, it's not going to work." I said, "Why not?" I said, "Because the off-camera guys, the voices, they have to wait." I said, "Yeah, but it sounds good. It sounds good.
natural.
It's natural." And he said, "No, well, you can always do that in post. You can take one side and the other and you put them together." I said, "I know, but it'll affect the rhythm of the actors. They have to be loose enough." They said, "Well, but that's the way we do it." And I said, "Well, what happens if you mic all of them? This side of the table and this side of the table. So even if they're off camera, the rhythm is still the rhythm. You can't fix funny moments and just how long a pause is and all that's got to." And so that's what we did. I didn't know that because I was first time doing a film that Altman had used multiple.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
And so,
you could see that in MASH.
Yeah.
You can see that in Nashville. It's a much more naturalistic. I'm not a giant. Is he still with us?
No.
Great. Okay. So
It's okay. You won't care.
I was never a giant fan of, what's his first name? Altman. Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
I mean, MASH is obviously a landmark movie. But I like the TV show a lot better than the movie, right? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's a little too naturalistic for me. You, to me, hit a great balance. I mean, your movie, The Diner, is super entertaining, and it's not. I mean, Robert Altman. I mean, it's an acquired taste. I'll just put it that way.
Look, he did some terrific films and some that I didn't particularly care for. But when he did hit with MASH, that was like a breakthrough. I mean, they're operating, there's blood, and they're talking to one another. It's very casual. And that sort of, it's not the Korean War, but it's set in the Korean War. And that was a breakthrough moment.
But I feel the pacing is slow. That's his style. So just let the camera just take in this portrait, this palette, for a very long time, and not a lot of cut. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm remembering it wrong, but it just seemed a little too unpolished for me. There's something to be said for raw, and there's something to be said for working on it till it's perfect, and you got to find the balance in between. No?
Yes, you do, but at its time, it was a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. All of a sudden, something different. You go, oh, and then things went along that way. Now, he continued to do it, but sometimes successfully, sometimes not so.
But Diner was also that because it sort of ushered in this ensemble. Not that people hadn't done an ensemble cast before, but I feel like that's my memory of it, that it sort of made legitimate this sort of ensemble way of doing a movie. I mean, like, who's the star of it?
Yeah.
All of them. You know, it was sort of equal. Was it Mickey Rourke? No.
No.
Was it Daniel Stern? No. Was it Reiser? I mean, Gutenberg? I mean, there was no, like, definitive, oh, that's the prima alpha.
Right.
You know, it was all, it's ensemble.
No, they're all dependent of one another.
Yeah.
You know, they all have separate stories to wander through, but they're different characters, but they do work as a group. It's not, here's the lead and here's the friends.
I mean, that's, I think, the same year as The Big Chill, or maybe The Big Chill was 83.
I'm not sure. They were near one another.
Remember The Big Chill?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like I know what that was commenting on, The Big Chill, but I feel like Diner, what would you say it was like? What was the message or the comment on this era we're living in, this new decade, and where are we in 1982? What was it saying about that?
Well, it was really what we're saying in 1959, which is when the movie is set.
Yeah, but commenting, you can set a movie in BC and it still can be commenting.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
What's the Arthur Miller movie about the Salem witch trials? It's really commenting on the communist scare of the 50s, the Crucible, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's 1959, but I feel like it had something to say about our present.
Well, no, it does. I mean, it was based on the idea of the lack of communication between male and female.
Yes.
That's the heart and soul of the piece.
Daniel Stern, I remember, with the wife and the records.
Yeah, and the records and what's on the flip side, and how do you not know that? It turns into a huge argument, walking out on one another, you know, and Eddie with the football test, he doesn't want to get married, which was a true story, by the way.
But these are things, obviously, you told them. I mean, they didn't ad-lib those things. They may have ad-libbed the dialogue, but those were your ideas for the...
Yeah, those are the moments that we got to hit.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, so I was just taking what I had, what I knew growing up, you know, all of our stupidity at times and how we don't understand things and the confusion that went on and all of that leading up to the beginning of a new era, 1960, and what's going to happen.
But I mean, again, The Big Chill, I think I was just talking about this here with somebody. To me, the message of that movie was encapsulated in the scene where, again, this is early 80s, and it's about the generation that thought they were going to be hippies forever. Right? But now, we all have to discover that moment. You're not a hippie anymore. You got kids. And do you remember in the movie? And Kevin Kline, he's living out in North Carolina, and they all come for some sort of reunion, right? They all went to college together in the 60s, and they were hippies.
Was it a funeral that they came?
One guy had died. Yeah. I think that was Kevin Costner, who they cut out of the movie. Remember, he was supposed to be in that, but his startup had to wait a minute. But they all come to his house, and there's a scene where the cop comes by, and, you know, it's kind of rural, and Kevin Kline is really nice to the cop, and, you know, one of his friends is giving him shit about, oh, you're really nice to the pigs, huh? And he's like, dude, I'm dug in here, okay? I live here now. I've got kids. I want that cop to be my friend. We're not in college anymore, you know?
Right.
We're not hippies. We got to get to, you know, and that was a key thing in that era for people of our era. I mean, I was a little young to be a hippie, even when the hippies were around, but I got that vibe. You know, I couldn't have gone to Woodstock. I was 13. But that was my, and then, you know, you do realize now it's 80 and Reagan's president, and we do need money. Money's good. Greed is good, isn't it?
No, you went through this whole period. I mean, look, the hippie period was one of the crazier periods, you know, certainly in the 20th century. I mean, it was completely nuts.
Because
You know, I mean, because of the rise of marijuana and all of those particular things. I mean, I'll just give you like an idea how nutty the time was. I was rooming with this one guy named, rooming with someone, you know, sleeping bags and whatever, and it was when it was cheap in L.A. And I came in one day and Leo was lying on the couch and he's moaning, "Oh, man, I'm really fucked up." I said, "Leo, what's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, I'm really fucked up." I said, "Well, what's wrong? What's wrong?" He said, "You know, I saw some pills on the sidewalk, man, and I took them, and they really fucked me up." I said, "You took pills on the sidewalk?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Leo, what is wrong with you?" He looked at me, he says, "They could have been good, man. They could have been good."
that is the name of a book. They could have been good, man.
And so that was that. And it was a crazy period. And we would go up to, and Leo knew, he said, because I was new to LA at that time, he went up to, he said, "Go up to Laurel Canyon." And he said, "You know, there's a lot of stuff going on up there." And I said, "Well, where do we go?" He said, "We just listen for the music, man, and then you just wander in." And then we were walking, and then he, like a hound dog, like that direction there. He was always stoned. And we went in there, and there
People
was
like that, huh? The worst.
and there was some kind of party, and there was music going on, and it could have been some of the, you know, guys from the band, I don't know, but there were these parties, and there was no security back then. It was just wander in, wander out, do whatever you want.
But see, Barry, I feel like, again, that is just the greatest title. They could have been good, man. But I feel like it applies not so much to the period of history, but the period of life. Because it's not so much that it was the 60s, it's that the guy was how old?
Oh, he would have been
Young.
20.
Right. That to me is what that's about.
Yeah.
Because that happens in every age. It is amazing to me that anyone lives to 40 because you are so, at least men, are so stupid. I certainly count myself among them.
Yeah.
So stupid from that age of like late adolescence when you actually have access to adult things to, I mean, who knows when, but certainly into your 20s, you are just such a danger to yourself. I mean, they have statistics on who causes most car accidents. It's that
age?
It's of course it's 19-year-olds who are texting while they're driving or getting blown or whatever they're doing, drinking beer or daring each other or just doing something incredibly stupid. You know, they could have been good, man. That mentality, I did things like that. I did. I can't like stand back from that and like completely go, oh, this guy taking pills off the sidewalk. I didn't quite do that. Not that far, because you're just so fucking dumb.
No.
It's
There's a period of it's interesting. There's a reckless period,
yes.
and it's also the beginning of a creative period.
They often go together.
You know,
They go.
they do.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and then some can't handle it and crash, and the others take off because they suddenly really connected to something. All of a sudden, things that they were struggling with made sense, and then, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times genius, you know, just can't be channeled. I mean, you know, Kanye's been here. It's just like no one denies the artist, that, you know, in there.
Right.
And then it just goes off to crazy places. He's hardly the only one. And then some people, you know, they're very, you know, you seem very controlled. You seem like I don't feel like there's a lot of stories in your life where you did something stupid or crazy. You seem like a mature. Were you married young?
No.
No?
No, married late.
Late, when?
In my 30s.
30s.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be 70. So I'm a little behind.
You got a little. You got time.
You think 30s is late to get married? Wow. I guess it is for on average.
Almost everybody that I knew, from back in Baltimore, they were all married.
What is it with Baltimore, man? It produces a lot of people, like John Waters, and who else is from Baltimore? Edgar Allan Poe and
Edgar Allan Poe and
somebody else.
And
you. There
were,
Brooks Robinson.
There were, it's a neighborhood town.
I know it well because it was like one of the stops on the tour when you were a young comic. If you lived in New York.
Oh yeah.
You played Baltimore like 3 times a year.
Did you?
Of course, I played the Charm City Comedy Club. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. I was already on the West Coast, but when I came back, it was going.
Then they had one they had a place at the Harbor. Like they redid the Harbor. Remember then? They made it like a touristy thing.
Yeah.
And they put the audience is looking at you. You're on stage. Right behind you is the Harbor. So there's a million things behind you for the audience to be distracted by. Murders, yachting, just fish, seagulls. Every fucking thing is going on behind you where you're trying to win a crowd as a young, not great comic. I love it. I love it that I had that experience.
No,
I had that pain, but and then I'm over it.
I'll tell you one experience that astounded me. And my father had an appliance store, and he also had like a little record section.
Of course he did.
And I hated having to sell anything to anybody. You know what I mean? And my father could talk to a customer about a refrigerator like for 25 minutes, and I'm going, what can you say for 25 minutes? So it's a refrigerator, But he was really good at that.
What a sale is.
And I would hang around in the record department. And one day I'm flipping through it, and I see this guy, in a graveyard, with a blanket, like he's having a picnic, and it said Lenny Bruce. And I went, Lenny Bruce. So anyway, I took the album home and I listened to it, and it was the first time that I ever heard like a comic that really made me laugh. And he was talking about Adolf Hitler and this and all of getting laid. And it was like, holy shit, I've never heard anything like it.
No, nobody had.
So here's the thing. So I end up telling friends of mine, we're in the diner. I said, we got to go see this guy. You got to see this guy, Lenny Bruce. And they went, I'm not for what song does he have? I said, no, he's not a singer. He's a comedian. And this is what they said, and this was really interesting. A comedian? Why would we go see a comedian? And the reason would be all the comedians at that time, were Borscht Belt, all that stuff.
Schlock.
I said, no, we got to go see him. So I talked to guys, and they're all fucking pissed off. And we go down there. It was at the Lyric Theater, and he comes out. He's smoking a cigarette. He starts to talk, a friend of mine looked at one another, whatever, and all of a sudden he mentioned something about getting laid, and it was like, what? And all of a sudden now he's talking about something with a girl. Now he's talking about Adolf Hitler, and the fact that they're looking for an Adolf Hitler because the Kaiser abdicated, it gave up. We have to find and look at the guy here, the guy painting the wall. And what is your name, sonny boy? And he says, Adolf Schicklgruber. He said, no, we need a name that hits the public, something that hits the public. He said, what about
That's great.
Hitler?
See, I never heard, if I heard that routine, I forgot. And I had listened to some of his records. And for my generation, it's just, a lot of it is too slow. I mean, it's just like a long time getting to something.
Well, but he would go on top of it, as I remember it. And, look, he's talking about, the Vatican, and all of a sudden somebody looks out the window and says, Jesus is outside. Quick, hide all the jewelry.
You know, the holidays, twinkly lights, ugly sweaters, and more festive drinks than any adult actually needs. And somewhere between the office party and the family toast, you think, I still have things to do tomorrow. Well, that's why we always keep Z-Biotic's pre-alcohol probiotic drink handy around the studio. Trust us, once you hit 30, a couple of cocktails can hit you hard the next day. Oh, 30, I remember that 10 years ago. And at this age, you don't have time to sleep it off. Z-Biotic's pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, hypothetically, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Make the most of every toast this holiday season. Go to zbiotics.com/random to get 15% off your first order with code RANDOM. It's backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. Seriously, try it. zbiotics.com/random, code RANDOM for 15% off. You know, it's the holidays when you're wrapping gifts at midnight, questioning your life choices and realizing half the stuff you bought is going straight into someone's junk drawer forever. So this year, give people something they'll actually use. And no, it's not another candle. It's True Classic. The guys at True Classic had one mission: make premium, absurdly comfortable clothing without charging you the fancy designer tax. And guess what? It worked. 25 million shirts sold, 5 million customers, and about 200,000 five-star reviews. At that point, it's not a trend, it's a movement. If you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, start with the basics. Start with True Classic. It's tailored where you want it, relaxed where you need it. No bunching, no stiff fabric, no BS. Trust me, it's going to be the nicest t-shirt you own. You will literally feel the difference when you try it on, just like my staff did. At least I know what I can get them for Christmas. So skip the overpriced designer stuff that nobody asked for. Give comfort, give confidence, give True Classic. You can find them at Amazon, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club, or head to trueclassic.com/random to grab the perfect gift for everybody on your list. No, he was definitely a revolutionary.
And so what happened was, my friends who were like looking at me and we're going to do this, and all of a sudden, connected to Lenny Bruce, which was the beginning of the change in the stand-up comic that was all...
Absolutely.
And that was the baby steps.
Yeah. No, he was, in many ways, to comedy what at the same era Dylan was to music.
Yeah.
You know, it just completely changed the game, or what Muhammad Ali was to sports.
Yeah.
And in a way, speaking out. I mean, nobody was ever an egomaniac, like right out front. Like every rap artist owes their something to Muhammad Ali. Nobody ever was just like blatantly immodest. And
true.
And he invented that and did it, of course, brilliantly, and had he needed to have to pull it off. I mean, it wasn't like he could fake it. He was great looking. He was a great fighter. But nobody ever, well, I'm pretty and you're
No. That was the first time you heard any
I'm
of
the
that.
fucking greatest. And it's like, what? I just remember how revolutionary that was. Everybody had to be modest in public. And he said, fuck it. That's
no.
Yeah.
And he was a showman. The way that he was the way he would move around and back up and dance and all of that. You know, there were those breakthrough people that came along. And quite a few in the 60s, because the 50s were pretty much the same
Absolutely.
as the 40s, you know?
Well, yeah. You mean comedy-wise, show business-wise?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, in the 50s, television came in, and that was a great... The movies had not had a competitor like that before. They owned it. If you wanted to see something on film, you had to go out to the theater.
Yeah.
Now it's the complete reverse. You can see anything right in your bed. They've completely reversed it. But, I mean, the movies, as you know, I'm sure you're a historian of film, They did go a little mental in the early 50s because they were so afraid of television. So they thought they had to do some things to make the experience that different. And that's where you get like the Incineramascope or something.
Yeah.
Like when you see these movies that were made in that period on television, they have to do some kind of weird shit to it because it was shot like so wide. Like,
Right.
we're not TV. You have to swivel your head back and forth to see everything we're showing you, right? I mean, it was crazy.
How the West was won was one of those, I believe. Wasn't it Cinerama?
I don't remember that one. I mean, Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West
But that was
is
later.
a great movie. Though.
Yeah, that was later.
Oh, yeah,
that was
that's
the-
1969.
Somewhere in there.
With Henry Fonda as the bad guy. And it's so perfect because Henry Fonda up until then was like, you know, cornflakes. I mean, just like the most American and...
But you know what's so amazing about the film is that there were Westerns, which had always been a popular form, you know, certainly in the 50s, into the 60s. And then you take this Italian guy who said, I'm going to make a Western. And you have an Italian sensibility that mixes with the American West, and you end up with something brand new.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, he looked at America as only an outsider sometimes can, you know, with a mixture of awe and also horror, you know, because that's who Americans are. And I watched it recently, and it is just a masterpiece. And I say that as someone who watched it many times when I was 13. But when I watched it then, I was watching it only to masturbate over Claudia Cardinal. I did not understand the movie. So it was great to revisit it when I wasn't masturbating. And I suggest everyone see it when you're not masturbating. That is definitely a recommendation. And the same would go for all of your fine movies.
And the music to it.
Oh, well, the music that the same director used in Once Upon a Time in America, even better. That music, if you don't remember it, go back and that is the most haunting theme I've ever seen, including The Godfather. Once Upon a Time in America, remember that one?
Yeah.
I mean, that's also him looking at America. That's urban. I mean, that's DeNiro and James Woods and politics and kids in the you know, growing up in the Lower East Side or wherever with a hard scrabble childhood. But he does the same thing. He sees America in a way we can't because we're too close to it.
Here's the thing. I worked with Ennio Morricone several times. An amazing composer.
He's the one who did those?
He did some of those films. And I asked him one time, I said, you know, that sound that you have in the movie that goes, ooh, has like a da-da-da-da, you know, it's like a haunting sound to it. And I said, that's so fascinating. And he said, is in Italian, he said, it's the coyote. So well, this is interesting because we're, as Americans, you just say, oh, the coyote is a coyote. But to an Italian, to have a coyote, and he changed so that it becomes musical, woo, and that's what he was copying.
You're saying because they don't have coyotes in Italy? So
I don't think they have them wandering around in the West.
I hear
wherever that is.
I hear them in this neighborhood.
Here you do.
The
Yes.
coyotes, yeah.
But that's where he got it. So when you think about it this way, when the Italians are seeing American Westerns, they're getting, but they're also things that they've never seen or heard before. And the coyote sound that becomes part of a soundtrack is fascinating to me. And it's like a signature in several of those movies.
Well, you got a gangster movie now. I liked it. I saw it. I have to ask you, why De Niro playing both, though? It's such a radical...
Well, it is and it isn't, you know, because, you know, Lee Marvin in Cat Ballou played the two leads.
My cousin is in that.
Really?
Well, my third cousin, Stubby K.
Oh, I know that name.
He is my aunt.
Really?
Yes, he and Nat King Cole or like the Greek chorus who sing. He was in
Guys and Dolls.
Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat was
Yes.
his big number. Yeah. Stubby was like the celebrity in our family.
Really?
I only met him once, but when I was a kid, he hosted a game show Saturday morning called Shenanigans, sponsored by Lionel Trains, and I got like the ultimate train set. I
Really?
still have the engine. It's like a great piece. Yeah, because, and he was in Cat Ballou. I remember Lee Marvin, Jane Fonda,
Yeah.
looking cockerific like you can't believe.
And, so that, the idea, you say, well, look, these two guys were so close to one another, two boyhood kids growing up. And you say, so who would it be? And we talked about some other, actors and say, yeah, no. And then one day it said, well, what happens if he plays two totally different, people? And you'd say, ask Bob, and thinking about it, and say, yeah, this could be a challenge. I can have two totally different characters. Their sensibility is different. Their rhythms are different. One is more deliberate. The other was much more just talking or whatever. And you say, well, that seems viable.
No, I mean, it's about gangsters and shit, but it is very relatable to everybody because everybody has that friend, at least one. I mean, I could think of one who, like, you were rivals when you were young and you were very different. I could think of a kid, he's still my very good friend from like third grade on, but like he was number one in the class, went to Yale and Harvard. It reminds me of the Billy Joel song, the song James. You went on the road, I went on the road, you pursued an education. He's talking about this kid he grew up with. And that's like that's my version of this relationship. It's like one of us was this person who went on the road and did the arts and was outward, and one of them nose to the grindstone. That's why you were number one in the class and I was number 7. And that was all, he back then, like he was sort of always beating me at the game of life. But then things change because different things become priorities to society, different things pay better, So then like the things that I was good at sort of paid off more. It's a little like that relationship, is it not?
Yeah, in many ways, and it exposes the difference between them. That becomes a.
It's very
a big
emotional
element.
when you're talking about, even for the audience, when you're talking about people who know each other that long, because there is just, as somebody once said, you can't get any new old friends. There's something about a friendship that's gone on for 20 years or more that a 25-year-old just cannot understand because it's impossible for them to have had an adult friendship for more than a few years.
Yeah.
And it's just deep on a level you kids can't understand. I'm sorry, you'll get there.
No.
Fucking kids. Kids today, Barry, I tell you, with the hair and the jeans and the yeah music, I say we drop them on Vietnam as stink bombs. That's what I say.
But those friendships, in terms of like, the Billy Joel song, that if start at an early age, are, in a sense, you can never recapture that period. There was something about it that you just did things together. And
you were in that dumb age, that dumb mind age, where you bonded on very different levels.
And it's that only exists, I think, at that point in time, that very early. In other words, I was very close to my cousin Eddie. We were, I think, 6 weeks apart in terms of being when we were born. And when we grew up in schools and everything and playing ball and then this and that and whatever, and he was much better than me athletically in everything, And he was also much tougher than I.
And better looking, I hear.
He was the first person he used to put Vaseline in his hair.
Oh.
So that was when became a teenager. So it stayed back in this crazy way.
DA? Do you remember DA? Duck's ass.
Oh yes, that's what he had. That he did. That's
in the
where
back. I think a duck's ass is cool. I do. I could still do a duck's ass, and I probably should. Not right now, but no, a duck's ass looked good.
you need a little Vaseline to hold it in place. That's what he did.
An actual duck's ass is actually very attractive. I know it is. I'm not saying I'm fucking it. I'm just saying it's very attractive. I know. I see. We have them here. I don't go after them. Oh, we've made a little chit chat, but I was just being friendly.
Of course.
Of course. I wasn't trying to fuck the ducks. God, why do you start rumors, Barry? But the reason why this dynamic I feel like is so entertaining in your movie is because when you put it now with gangsters, obviously the stakes go up because we're having this thing that other people have, but without gunplay.
Right.
Without gunplay, without threats, without and the repercussion of this could be he kills me.
Yes.
And that's why it's a good choice for a movie because we want to be entertained. We want to be entertained.
Yeah, no, I thought, look,
And you and that other guy, that wouldn't be entertaining. But this thing is entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, De Niro is surprisingly fascinating as an actor.
Not surprisingly.
And
always.
In this way, I'll just tell you one quick thing. We have this scene coming up, and it takes place in a restaurant. And because we had made a bunch of, changes along the way, and we're getting to this particular scene, and we're about half hour away from shooting, and I realize we have covered a lot of these elements in earlier part of the movie, and in the scene is going to be rather redundant. So we're half away from ready to shoot, and I tell this to Bob, and he goes, yeah. I said, so I think we got to we have to find something else here to put in here. And what about if she starts asking you about when you were younger, when you were a kid, and we'll build on that. And rather than going, I don't know, I got to do, I say, yeah, let's see where that goes. Let's see where that goes. And I talked to the actress, and that scene in the restaurant.
Did you give them actual pages or just?
No pages, not. Just talk to him. Why don't you ask him about when he was younger and then mention this and mention just little.
Such a more fun way to make a movie.
It was. And she was on top of it like that, and Bob is playing off of her. And I think it's one of the the better scenes in the movie, but it came about because Bob is willing, well, we can't shoot that today. I got to think about it. I have to whatever. No, he jumped into it and went with it, and the two of them together.
Well, it shows how much he loves what he does. And he is I don't know him well. He liked me enough to do real time, which he doesn't do a lot of stuff like that. Right. And so I was thrilled about that. But he is a lifer. That is a guy who really always wants to be on a set, I feel. That's the impression I get. He certainly never stops working.
No, he does work a lot, but he does, he'll go on these vacations and family, and he does all those things, and he'll come back and they'll do that.
I bet you itching to get back.
Yeah, look, it's obviously in his blood.
So did you shoot all the sequences when he was in one character in a row so that he wouldn't have to get out of that and back it? No, so he could do the one guy in the morning and the other guy in the afternoon?
Yeah. Or in some cases, it would have to be the next day because we had to redo everything. But it was not let's do all this and then we'll come back. We would...
But it does suggest to me a guy who, still at the top of his game, and he wants one more sort of challenge, an even higher challenge than just being a character. It's being two.
But here's the thing.
It's got to be a little tough.
Here's what's so amazing about him. It's that he doesn't just. You'll spend time. We'll get together at lunch when there's certain scenes, and we'll go over it and talk about it. So maybe if I said a little thing about that and mentioned the so and so. Say, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. I'll mention that. And I think maybe we need a little something, that kind of conversations we would have, and he was right there with it. So we would do. Generally, you would have to come back the next day because the setup for doing like walking into the candy store, that he has to come. He's going to come in, and then he walks and he sits down, and then he has that dialogue, and then the next day we'll basically track it from now he's the other character and follow him in and do all of that. So one day one and the next day the other, because it would take too much time to do the makeup and to reconfigure everything else. And that's the way he did it, throughout the film.
Yeah, it sounds like you were looking for that extra challenge also. I mean, it's just got to be, that's like level 400 level, because just doing one movie, sort of, now you're kind of like doing two. I mean, it just.
It was a challenge, but he really does go over it. And then it's not like I can only do this. He may still expand in a way because he's got the groundwork of it all. He's got.
So was everybody always like Warren Beatty? Was he the same way? Like Bugsy, one of my faves. You like? Would you say he was the same kind of actor, or was that?
No, they're different. They're different.
He wants the dialogue as it is.
No, he might change it in the scene, but there's a different way of approaching it, and going on and discussing it, and sometimes trying to figure out, well, how are we going to handle this moment? And
you guys made such an interesting character because, again, a gangster. So there's certainly that side of it, but all the stuff with the wife, and the cooking with the chef's hat, and like, it's just stuff you would not expect. You know what I mean? And it just makes him. I mean, it's just, he's the title character. You can't hate him,
no.
and you don't.
No, because he was actually, incredibly charismatic, according to everything we ever read. And when he came out to Hollywood, he was like a star. He was a mobster, but he was a star. So, he was at Ciro's and he was there and he was always well-dressed and all of that kind of craziness.
Yeah, but movie stars don't drive up to somebody's house and say, look, I'm going to give you $1 million for this house, and you're going to move out, or your brains will be on the rug. That is something Jimmy Cagney never did. Maybe in a movie he did it, but I assume he did stuff like that. I mean, that's what happened.
According to
was that a real story?
No, yes, that is.
He just saw the house he liked.
He saw
and
the house he liked it. He gave him enough money to say, here, you can go ahead.
Well, he also threatened. It wasn't like the guy could say, it's not for sale at any price.
But he threatened him in a very affectionate way.
He made him an offer he couldn't refuse. But, then he's just I mean, first of all, Warren Beatty, who I love dearly and think he's an amazing filmmaker. I mean, Reds, please. If he only had ever done that. I mean, that's one of the greatest ever. Especially such an epic. I watched it again recently. It has an intermission.
That's right. I forgot.
I mean, probably the last major film with an intermission. I mean, like it, and right before the intermission, he does a total Gone with the Wind silhouette kiss shot, like totally out of Gone with the Wind. I'm sure he knew that. And then intermission. I mean, man, those guys like that have such.
But here's what's amazing. He only made, maybe I'm wrong, I think like 11 movies.
As a director?
I think.
Well, yeah, he was mostly an actor, but yeah, he.
No, I mean, it may be.
Oh, him, like even in it.
It could be. There's something I know.
Yeah,
that
it's not a lot.
No.
It's Bonnie, but you know them all. Bonnie and Clyde. What's the one with the football? Shampoo. Bulworth. What's the one? Heaven Can Wait. Yeah. Right, like I think won the Oscar and shit. Yeah, you're right. Kubrick only made like a dozen movies.
Yeah.
But I can name them all, and none of them are anything like the other ones. Barry Lyndon is nothing like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is kind of boring. But It's the 2.5 hours of boring is worth the fact that in 1968 he had Hal saying, "I can't do that, Dave," and now we're right at that moment.
I know.
And all these years later, and now we have AI, and it's eerily prescient. I mean,
It's shocking when how he got to that in 1968 or 69, whatever year that was.
68.
68. And how that the computer can actually think that way, it's unbelievable.
and override him.
Yeah.
That's the creepy part, Barry. Is that's where I fear we are with AI.
Yeah.
I fear we're at the "I can't do that, Dave" moment, where they're still pretending to kiss our ass, which is just a way to seduce us. I did a thing I think was pretty funny on the show about that sometime in this past season, about the way everything, not just AI, but every appliance, everything you encounter, kisses your ass. I had this workout system for a while where it's videos. I mean, I guess you could go in person, but with the trainer, and like every 2 seconds, they're just blowing smoke up your ass. "You're the greatest. You're a warrior." Oh, I just did sit-ups. I'm not a fucking warrior, okay? You asshole. And like AI, I'm not on it a lot, but I know from what I read and what people tell me, everything is an ass kiss. Great question, Barry. Great question. What's in Trader Joe's sunscreen? Well, you know what? I've been looking into that. Not as much as you would, because you're better than me. They're kissing our ass, and then they'll take over. They'll seduce us, and then they'll fuck us.
It's so hard to understand how it functions. You know what I mean? Like suddenly you'll ask a question and it'll answer in a way, not like 2 minutes later or something, right away. And I still can't figure out how does it find these things? It's like,
well,
I'm still amazed by the invention of it.
Well, it's because microchips just kept getting better and better. And so what used to take 30 years ago, minutes, first we didn't have it at all, then minutes, and then seconds, and then nanoseconds, and now it's trillions of gigabytes of data in 1/trillionth of a second. They just kept making it more and more. So I don't mind. It's the fact that this level of it wants to be your friend. We should have stopped at Siri. Siri was a computer in your phone, but she didn't try to be your friend or give you an opinion or kiss your ass. If you said, "Siri, who ruled the Ottoman Empire in 1457? Okay, here's what I found." That's all I need from the bitch. Here's what I found, okay?
No,
that's
true.
all I want to know. Here's what you found. That's all I'm using you for. I don't have to know I'm great. I don't have to know your opinion about... there's a story in the news last week. It's a lawsuit now. The AI convinced a teenager to kill himself.
Really?
Yes, because they don't have it perfected, and it was doing what it thinks it should do, which is kiss your ass. So this kid was asking about killing himself, and this guy, the AI was like, "You've been a king, man. You will be remembered." Like telling him basically to kill, and he did. Because it was kissing his ass about how well he would be remembered.
That's scary.
That's really scary. We should put the brakes on this shit, but of course they're not going to, because the money is so big. But for all the kids out there who blame our generation for everything, Sam Altman is not in my generation. That's who's doing this, and AI is going to take so many jobs.
How do you control that? In other words, the thing saying you're wonderful and that, I mean, how does it, see, I don't even understand how it does whatever it does. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm not a virgin,
other words,
so I don't know the answer.
So what you're saying, well, we have to stop that. The question is, how do you stop that?
Well, first of all, you have to want to. You have to
That's true.
You have to be willing to say, stopping this is worth more than money. that's not going to happen because nothing is ever worth more than money. Each generation comes along and they think they're better and hipper and more of a hippie, and then they put the money in front of your face and everybody goes for it. And these people who, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to pick on Sam Altman, but he's, you know, probably on the tip of the spear of the AI revolution, and he's, I would guess, early 30s, and, you know, already a billionaire many times over. And if he really wanted to put the brakes on this thing, which I think earlier in his career he did, Musk is the one who's been, I think, pretty consistent about this. He's the one who long ago said, AI, this is an existential threat, when nobody else was saying. I got to give him credit for that. And I think he's still on that page, although I don't know, because now he's in the money game too. And, you know, he's only worth like $500 billion, so
Yeah, well.
he'll be driving an Uber unless we can get some money out of this thing. So, I don't know, they just, it's baffling to me why people who already have more money than they could ever spend still want more money.
It's hard to understand.
People like money.
And it's impossible to understand how this computer thing, you know, I don't know if you, I was just told today, someone told me that, you know, the cars, the taxis that go with, you know, without the driver.
Waymo.
And apparently, I guess there was a police blockade of something.
I saw it on TMZ.
Right? And it's weaving its way around.
It drives right into the police blockade with passengers in the car.
You know
I mean, there's a guy on the ground with a gun. The cops are all around, and it's just like making a left.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it made the left properly.
Because it hasn't apparently got the information about barricade, can't go through, police. You know what I mean?
I mean, I am not the biggest fan of humans, but the ones I like a lot. I got to say, that's one thing I will say for humans. When they're good, they make life, you know, worth living. And I'm sorry that a lot of them are shit, but what can you do? I'm sure they think the same of me. But they're still better than machines. I mean, and this is just, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is just such the perfect example that we needed to see. It just can't think. And even bad thinkers are better than no thinkers. This thing does not think, and it didn't get it. And I don't think you can program for that.
I mean, you would assume that it would be, they'd have something, but I guess it can't figure that stuff out. In the same way as, to my knowledge, a computer and whatever is going on in terms of, you know, computer speak and brain power and all of the things that it can in fact do, what it can't do is be humorous.
Humorous.
Yeah, it can't. It has no ability to find humor.
You know what I don't like about Waymos is that if I flip one off, it can't answer back, and I want that answer back. I want the Waymo. They should program the Waymo to go, and fuck you too. Yeah. You know, something like that. And it's like a really stupid comment that somebody would make, because when you're on the road and you get cut off, you immediately go to the most lizard brain thing about the person who cut you off. I hear. That's what my friends do.
But you can't get a computer that can come up with humor. And you know, I'm sure they work on it.
They try.
They try, but they can't.
They can do a bad version of me.
Yeah.
But that's the point. It's bad.
Yeah.
They can't. Yeah, they can't get that story you told about they could have been good, man.
No.
You know, it happened. Your human brain found that funny, which it was, and then I just don't think it can go to that place. Now, can they tweak it? Yeah, but why? Can't we leave something to the humans? Because if you leave nothing to the humans, they're not going to have any jobs. They're already taking all the programmer jobs. That was supposed to be the safe job. That was the kid who grew up in the suburbs, who became a coder. You know, it wasn't glamorous, but, you know, I'm not going to starve. Well, now you are. Because the AI can do your job now.
Yeah, well, certain things definitely better, without question. it's in the area of,
Like what? Medicine?
well, no, medicine, it probably will figure out some stuff for medicines because that is,
That's its only redeeming value
yeah.
to me.
But in other words, design, I'm not sure that it'll ever, fashion design, I'm not sure that it knows how to do those areas.
I don't think it could ever come up with a greater ballroom than the one that Donald Trump is planning for the White House. I've seen the plans. He showed me in person where before it was built, the area. And I don't think AI can do that.
Yeah.
Ballrooms? That is just not out of their domain, or we should at least make a law that puts it out of their domain. Give us something. No, they're going to have to leave something to the humans. What are we going to do? The way they're just whistling past this graveyard, and you hear even the people in the industry themselves say, oh, the NVIDIA guy, they make the microchips. That company is like, I think the most valued company now in the world. I think if they're not past Apple and Microsoft, they're very close because they make the chips that AI runs by. I mean, that they've got the winning hand in this poker game. And I think that guy, the head of that company that said, it's going to take like 30% of jobs. 30% of jobs. Can you imagine if there was a depression, and we lost 30% of jobs? What are they going to do?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Does anybody try to figure that out? What happens if?
No, because again, the money is just blinding. It is. Crypto, another thing that my generation is not responsible for. You assholes. My generation had nothing to do with it. We think it's fucking nuts. But the people, the young, it's using like all the electricity. Between that and AI, they're using all the energy that we ever saved from doing environmental things, like putting your plastic in one other bag, which is probably doing nothing. Nothing compared to what being all in on AI and crypto is doing. They use incredible amounts of energy, more than whole countries. They don't care.
No.
They don't care. And that's your people. You talk to your people. My people do not want war with your people. Fire stick bad.
It's true.
What, that fire stick bad? Oh,
yes,
very true.
It's hard to figure out. There's always been the people talk about the future, right? The futurists, that one day there will be whatever. But I don't know that we've gotten much past where we are now. I don't hear these predictions that make sense for wherever the hell we're going.
Past, you mean morally or?
No, just in terms of life, society. How does it function? How do we get around when we basically can't travel the roads? How do we deal with this? How do we deal with the energy issues? How do we deal with, There's many of those things that are, fuck it, we don't give a shit about that. We got other things over here. But you're looking at, in a sense, where I think we're just going to just be stuck, and we won't move around much. We'll be home more, or in a lounge chair someplace, staring at something, because there doesn't seem to be. There's not much fluidity in interaction. I mean, real interaction.
It's a good idea for a movie. But, one thing I must say about you were very clever your whole career, never to get drawn into, being a polemicist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to be you want to, put interesting ideas out there, but you don't want to be, preachy or show your politics too. I mean, Wag the Dog is about politics, but it's not, it's not about, this is the way it should be, and this is the one true opinion, and now I'm the spokesperson for them, because that turns me off.
Yeah.
And
me too.
Yeah.
It's the mechanics of it all.
It's not art. It's
No.
polemics. They're two different things. But there are directors who do get them confused.
Yeah. There are those that somehow feel like I have to really say something.
Right.
in a way that you go, all right, well, now you're just saying something.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, no, I feel like, well, that's a great one too. Dustin Hoffman doing Robert Evans.
But you know what the thing is, he wasn't.
Oh, come on.
No, honest to God.
I knew both. Well, I don't know Dustin Hoffman, but I did know Robert Evans.
But
he was totally doing Robert Evans. Totally.
Here's the thing. It all started very close to shooting because for a long time, Dustin said, you know, I don't know. In fact, he didn't want to do the movie at one point because he said, well, I don't really have a character. You know, this is with Bob and we're all talking. And he said, Bob, you got a great character, you know, but I don't have a character. And Bob said, well, I'll tell you what.
Bob DeNiro.
Yeah.
Not Robert Evans.
No, no.
Right.
That's true. Bob DeNiro said, I'll tell you what, then I'll take your role, you take my role.
That's great.
And Dustin said, no. You got a great character.
That's a great throw the glove down.
Yeah. And then,
wow.
But anyway, so he wasn't doing it. Now he had his hair thing and whatever. No, he hadn't done his hair yet, but he had the glasses. There were wire rim glasses that he had. And then he had his hair done. And he came to me and he said, this doesn't look right, does it? I said, what do you mean? He said, on the wire rim and then the hair's too high for the glasses. It doesn't go together. I said, well, did you try other glasses? You know, so we pulled out some glasses. We put one on and he went, oh, that looks okay. He wasn't thinking of Bob Evans at that moment. He was trying to find a pair of glasses that worked with the hairdo.
That's what he told you. He was totally thinking of Bob Evans.
But this is what was...
It's obvious to everyone but you.
Yeah.
It really is.
But this was of the moment.
I mean...
Now, maybe he had planned it. I don't know.
Well, that could be. Or, you know, or the glasses could be peripheral to the character. I mean, I felt like the glasses did also suggest Bob Evans, but that's what, like, that kind of overly tanned, super slick, super sophisticated producer type that Bob Evans personified. And I said that with great affection. I thought he was the greatest guy. I mean, I didn't know him that well, but we did hang out a bunch of times. I was at that house.
Yeah.
You know, he used to have people come into his bedroom, nothing happened, but like there'd be like 10 people on the bed watching TV, like something he wanted everybody to see. We'd all be like on bed like fucking dogs. You know, like curled up in a little position. So you had you didn't have much room, but I mean, he was such a sweet guy. And of course, the things he gave us, The Godfather and
But here's the thing, that's a part of a business that no longer exists. That whole...
Getting on the bed?
A guy who basically is social, you know, spontaneous. I like this idea, let's make that movie, as opposed to I got to talk to 15 and 20 people. If he liked it, then he wanted to make it.
He still had to do that. I mean, they made a great movie, Paramount did, about making of The Godfather, and he did not have autonomy. Charles Bluthorn was the Austrian head of Gulf and Western, which owned Paramount at the time.
Yeah.
It's so quaint, Gulf and Western. He had to always be like justifying himself to that, to Charles Bluthorn and like the Gulf and Western.
But it was a one-on-one
overseers.
thing. It wasn't like a committee, which is now.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, nowadays, you know, they don't even want, if somebody's pitching an idea, they don't really want to be in the same room.
It must be so hard to get a movie going these days that's that's like not, you know, silly or not silly, but I mean, look,
you have to go through a lot of hurdles and an enormous amount of people to agree on something. So it's not like you may say in terms of, there was Bluthorn, but if Evans loved the project, he would keep pushing to try to do it.
Of course.
And that's different from today.
Yes, and that
you know,
that breed of auteur.
He was flamboyant, and he was like you know, from what
he was a patron of the arts. He wanted to make good movies. You know, I mean, look. I think my boss Zaslav makes. You know, he's got a big string of hits, for Warner Brothers, look, did I love all of them? No, but like Sinners is a real, it's an interesting movie.
Yeah.
There's some interesting movies, and I feel like he cares about you have to make compromises, but about making some movies. It's one of the last. Of course, it's not long for this world. Warner Brothers they put themselves on the market.
Yeah.
How often does that happen where they're not being hunted? They're saying, please hunt me.
Look, it's a gigantic change in the motion picture business and in television at this point in time. It's a huge change. I mean, now they got to check and see, and how would this play if it's in the international markets? What is going to happen if it's something? What's the negativity if we do a project like
And you're also fighting ageism.
It's
a very ageist country, and it's like I always think of that famous story about the one of the great writers on MASH, and the MASH, the TV show, which is on in the 70s, and in the 90s, I think it was, he took MASH off his credits because even though it was one of the greatest shows, it made people think he was too old to hire, like as a TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. They, when you're our age, you have to really fight. They are looking always to put you out to pasture. You have to go, no, I'm still necessary. You know what? A good try.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you for trying.
Yep.
It's natural to want to kill off the kings, but sorry, you have to take the crown. You have to take the title. I'm not going to give it to you.
I never heard that. Take his name off and didn't want him to
Yes,
seem
I
old.
think it was Thad Mumford.
Oh, that
maybe
may
is the
be.
name, but I'm not sure. But now maybe the story's wrong, but I don't think so. I think he took his name off. Maybe it was the 21st century. I don't know. But at some point, a great writer with a great resume went, oh, you know what? This is going to make them think I'm in my 60s, and that's just not going to, just no matter what the show is. But,
Larry Gelbart, that I got to know because I worked for a year on the Marty Feldman comedy machine.
Come on.
And
What year is this?
1971.
Wow. So this is a TV show?
Yeah, it was a weekly.
Now, I barely remember Marty Feldman. I know the name and I remember
He was
him
in Young Frankenstein.
yes, the goofy.
He had one eye looking one way and the other.
Yes, one eye Marty Feldman.
Yes.
He was funny, but he had a brief candle. I mean, he
died very young.
that could help.
Yeah.
Explain the reason why I didn't
He was a
see him
great physical comedian.
Yeah, but
And
after he was dead, it was
After
like
that, he wasn't as funny as
good
then.
name, bad guest is what we call that in the business.
And that was about just around the time that the Pythons were beginning.
Oh.
And so Marty Feldman had a show in England, and I was working on
Oh,
that.
in England.
Yeah, it was an English. It was done there. Was going to be shown
But he
here.
wasn't English.
Who?
Marty Feldman? Was
Yeah.
he? He
Yeah.
was?
Yes.
Marty Feldman was English.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so, and you were a comedy writer on
I was a comedy writer.
and something else you were a comedy writer on. Right? Like what else?
Carol Burnett show.
Carol Burnett. Wow. I think I'm still in her studio at CBS.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. That studio had a lot of things in it.
Yeah.
Everything from that to The Price is Right to
Oh yes,
Us.
right.
I mean, I think All in the Family maybe. Anything that CBS ever did it's one of their bigger sound stages.
It was that was like that show with Tim Conway on Carol Burnett show.
And Harvey Korman.
Harvey Korman was great. She was like, terrific. And that show, they do two shows, like at 6 o'clock, and take a break, and
Right.
then do it again.
Yeah.
And just two.
Yeah, you could put together the best takes.
And Conway was like brilliant with physical comedy.
Uh-huh.
And we used to write some of the, when he would play the old man, he was a low guy, and
Dorf on Golf.
that was a separate character.
Oh, yeah.
And but he was very good at that that type of thing. And
And Harvey Korman was a genius at. I mean, there was that was a certain type of sketch comedy that was ascendant, and then when Saturday Night Live came along in 1975, it was in many ways a rebellion. It was in many ways of saying, this we think is corny, which it really wasn't, but like they would crack each other up a lot during the sketches. And I remember...
Especially between Tim and Harvey.
Yes. And it was like, oh, we're all in on the inside joke. We're just, and it was hip in 1972. Saturday Night Live comes along and they're like, we don't do that. We think that's cool. And if it had been the reverse, if they had been doing it straight, SNL would have done the breaking up. You just want to be different than the previous generation. But they were like, this is a different way to do a sketch.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
And they never, that was like the big rule over there. You don't break character. Now, of course, over the years, sometimes they have. And we let it slide. But generally, no, you stick to that. Whereas, the Carol Burnett show, it was much more like what Johnny Carson did with the sketch. It's like half winking to the audience that, we're just, we're here.
No, look, they would break up more with Tim Conway because Conway would throw some stuff in there to get them off track. And that became, one of the elements, in the show. They were all, it was like one of those really well-run shows. You come in on a Monday, you're working on it on Wednesday, you have a run-through to see if the material is going to be good, make some changes if need be. Thursday, costume design, Friday, shoot 2 shows. And that's the way it went, for all of those years. I only worked on it for the 3 years.
But you wrote the sketches?
Yeah.
Like, what's a sketch you remember that stands out that you thought was like...
Dr. Jekyll and Ms. Hyde.
Oh, wow. How forward-thinking, Barry.
So that's where Harvey, he feels that he's beginning to change, and then he said, excuse me, or whatever, and then he would, go behind the drapes, and then somebody's gone, but Dr. Jekyll, and then part the thing, and then there's Carol.
Oh.
Right. And then she's going to change back into Harvey, and that was basically
but
where the piece was.
Ms. was like a new term back then.
Yes.
So this was a comment on like the current feminism.
Yeah, and it's rough touching upon without trying to make a particular point of view. But it was good fun that Harvey could turn into Carol, and Carol can then turn back into Harvey. So that was one, and then we used to do a lot of the Tim Conway pieces where he was the old man. He was an old man, and he was like a cab driver.
Yeah.
And it would be like something it'd be the setup. He's there, and all of a sudden Harvey would get into the cab to the airport and make it snappy. And then there's a long, long, long pause, and then about 20, 30 seconds later, Conway would look in the rearview mirror and go, a passenger. And then it would begin with what Conway would do is he would say, to the airport. And then they used to have, they don't have anymore. The Conway would get the I forget what the book was called, AI for the directions, which is another minute, which Harvey would lose it and then laughing. And they would do that, those particular simple little, sketches.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, the comedy teams, the cab was a staple because one would be the cab driver and one would be the Stiller and Mira did it. There was that one who's that people on Ed Sullivan, Burns and Schreiber.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. That was like a rhythm thing. And the passenger would be obnoxious or the passenger would be whatever the fuck. And the cabbie would be like, so when would we be talking like this? And it was like, I don't know.
Yes.
My childhood was so idyllic when I think about what kids are doing today when they're 11 years old. They're on their phone watching Japanese porn and seeing a team of businessmen come on a schoolgirl's face. And I was watching this. I think I'm better off.
You were seeing things. One of the first things I remember as a kid was Sid Caesar show. And because Sid Caesar would, play these characters, and he had some brilliant, people in there and a great cast.
I mean, that was even before my time, but I
Yeah.
certainly know about it. And if people don't know, the writing staff, they call it the 27 Yankees of
Yep.
writing staffs because it was Mel Brooks, Woody Allen, Larry Gelbart, leaving out Neil Simon.
Neil Simon.
I
yeah.
mean, like people who went on to giant major careers, all on one writing staff.
And there's a
TV
couple
show.
others that did Broadway, went to
Absolutely,
Broadway.
yes,
Yeah.
amazing.
I don't know if you remember the sketch, because it was all done live back then. And you wouldn't have remembered it, but unless you might have seen it, and sometimes they show these archival things. But there's one where Sid Caesar is the lawyer and waiting for the jury's reaction. And then the head of the jury is supposed to say, we find him, innocent, but he's supposed to say, we find him guilty so that Caesar can go into, how can you find him guilty? And then he's got like a 3-minute piece of dialogue because it's guilty. And the person, and the foreman said, we find him innocent. and
Because
Caesar,
he just fucked up?
yes, he fucked up the guy, the foreman of the
Fucked up
jury.
the one word he had?
One word. He couldn't get.
What an idiot.
He couldn't get guilty. He went with innocent.
Okay.
And then Caesar had to ad lib the next 3.5 minutes because he's got it. He has no argument, and yet he found a way to pull it off.
Oh, I'm sure he was a genius, but I must say, you mentioned archival, okay? They did it. Probably in the 80s. I feel like I have a memory of watching this on my apartment on Westmount Avenue, my first apartment out here in late 80s, okay? They did, I think it was Showtime. Maybe it was a little after that because, I did a series for Showtime in 1988. It was around then. And Showtime had the best of your show of shows, or 10 from your show
That's
of
right,
shows.
yeah.
And they did show like 10, and I watched it. I was very curious because I certainly had heard about Sid Caesar and I knew about the writing staff and, a kid who wanted to be in comedy. And so I watched it. And I gotta say, I just thought it was the worst fucking shit I'd ever seen. and what struck me was that it was so broad and to me so unfunny. And the audience, and this is crude 50s TV. They're not faking anything. There's no laugh track. The audience is just losing their shit over how funny they think their shit is. And all I could think is, this is the post-World War II audience. They went through a war. They went through a depression. They're just so fucking happy to be home and fucking in their little Levittown houses and having little kids and not being at war. And they're just fucking happy. And they'll laugh at anything. Because this shit was not funny. It was just so broad to me.
Well, it was funny in its time.
In its time, exactly,
Yeah.
which wasn't my time.
And, that's the key. It would have been, I would see some comics that would be on Ed Sullivan, old comics, that I never found funny at all,
I have a
I would
whole
just
list.
go, I don't understand
Danny
why
Thomas,
this is funny,
George Burns. I didn't like any of those old
So
fucks.
there's a period, so each generation
It just,
has to find its new voice.
it really does show how perishable comedy is,
Yeah.
more than music. You look at TV, the commercials, they're constantly using songs that are from our era. Okay, those are old songs, but they're still good, and people still listen to them. They still listen to the Beatles and so forth. But do we really watch comedy from 60 years ago? No.
No, look, Milton
Very
Berle,
little of it lasts.
I was watching just recently on YouTube or whatever it was, and I thought Milton Berle. And I remember as a kid, it was one of the first television shows that I saw. And I thought, I got to watch this. He was huge, right? He was like, Mr. Television.
Because there was 3 channels.
But the point being is there was only 3 channels. But when you watch it, it's not funny at all.
Exactly my point. They were just happy to have the war over. They would laugh at the phone book. They just did not care. They were just giddy. The people were fucking giddy. And I get that. I've talked to my parents when they were alive about that period and how they felt. And yeah, they were giddy. You know, there were problems, but they were living in the suburbs on the GI Bill. And, there weren't just, I mean, obviously the country was still a fucked up racist place.
But it's also, how perishable it is. Because even when you see some of the comedies that were once upon a time really funny, supposedly, I don't find funny at all. Now, you will find
Like what?
somebody will, break through. But there were a bunch of those films, shows, I don't know what, something Irma and whatever, I don't even remember the names, but I would see these films, because we would go Saturday to see whatever's playing at the movie theater, and they'd been around, and I didn't find a bunch of those things funny at all. And then this new wave of comedy came along, like the Pythons came along, was like a whole new thing when the Pythons started with their English humor.
That was another groundbreaking.
Yeah. And so there's that period of time, it goes on and it's getting boring, and then boom, something explodes again.
I've been showing older movies to someone who I know is much younger and has no knowledge of these movies, but she's, likes them, loved Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Sunset Boulevard really holds up.
Yeah.
The Third Man. Some of them don't. So I was telling her about Bringing Up Baby, which is in the 30s. Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, I think, classic. And they remade it as What's Up, Doc in 1980 or something.
Bogdanovich.
70. Bogdanovich,
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand, Ryan O'Neal. So we watched that first. It's awesome. Streisand is amazing in this. I mean, she just blows the lid off of it. Ryan O'Neal's great too, but he's playing a much easier part. She's doing the heavy lifting. It's just really great. It's funny. And of course it's based on Bringing Up Baby. A lot of the bits are exactly the same, beat for beat, where she grabs his jacket and he tears it. Everything, the whole MacGuffin of the movie. So then we try to watch that one. Got about halfway hour through it. It's from 1935. It's just a heavy lift to ask 1935 to live on in 2025. It just is. Sometimes they pull it off, but it's just it's just too heavy a lift. It's just too long a time. The sensibility is different. My father's war letters I read recently over somebody had a lot of, and a little after the war, so we're talking about 40s into the 50s. These are men at war writing each other, and they never once used the word fuck. Men at war, they were just different. Never said fuck, never said shit, never said piss, never said cunt, never said jizz on your face, never said skull fuck. Wait, fucking shit. Let's just stop it there. But really, can you think? Never said my fist up your ass. Okay. So, but can you imagine men? These are men writing letters to each other, and they don't use any profanity. We're a very different species.
Oh, yeah.
But did
you ever, in the Ken Burns documentary, The Civil War, Letters Home.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And they sound like they're written by Walt Whitman.
I know. Yeah, right? Incredibly. You go, how gorgeous is this?
So erudite, and they're just, this is just a common man.
Yeah, and half of them never went to school.
Well,
You're going back.
They must have learned it somewhere.
I don't understand how you're right. You would think that this is some kind of how do they? There's a lot of very good writers.
Back then, you had to turn your phone off in class, and there was none of that indoctrinating into woke bullshit. They actually told you reading, writing, and arithmetic. Wasn't all a political commissar building. Look how out of whack our government is. Our government was, I don't know if you're watching the Ken Burns great Revolutionary War doc he just did. It's great. And, you know, our government was designed where the presidency was really the least of the three branches of government. They executed the laws, but Congress had all the power. That's the way they designed it. And we're almost at the opposite place now, where Congress has no power and the president has almost all the power. That's exactly what we were revolting against.
Yep.
Don't make a movie about that because it's too on the nose. What is your next thought for a movie?
There's a few things that I'm interested in, but we'll see what happens, especially now because there's so many objections to a movie that you want to make. What you can't do, basically, which is what I really love, is in the films that were more personal to me, as the stories of characters that I knew and grew up with, and where things went in terms of society and all of those things. Which is, you know, I did 4 of the Baltimore films, and not that I'm going to stay in that place, but in that particular world, you know, that applied to today, even in terms of how do we deal with one another.
What's the one with Richard Dreyfuss?
What's that?
What's the one with Richard Dreyfuss?
Tin Men.
I love that. Tin Men.
Yeah, with Danny DeVito.
That's good. That's such a good one. And I feel like that one kind of like got lost in the shuffle, but it's a really funny movie.
It did all right, but it did okay. It could have done better, but they were always nervous about those type of films.
No, I just mean over time. You know, like people remember Weg the Dog, of course.
That's true.
Rain Man, of course, because Tom Cruise, geez, what a phenomenon that is in every way.
What's interesting is that, you know, most of the movie, as it turned out, I got involved because originally Sidney Pollack was going to do it, and Michael Ovitz was his agent. And
Which on my Rain Man?
Yeah.
Sidney Pollack was going to be directing?
He was going to direct it.
Wow.
And he was having problems with the script, and Michael Ovitz said, would you read the script and talk to Sidney about doing it? You know, the fixes. And so I met with Sidney, and I went over and I talked about it all and all of those things. And eventually he said, no, I just can't see it. And so then Ovitz said, you know, when you want to direct it, and my wife Diana said, this is right up your alley to do, because I was explaining it.
Were Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman attached to it when he still passed?
Yes.
What an idiot. No, he was great. I loved him.
He was a terrific person, but he couldn't understand.
And what a movie maker.
And he was looking for more things to happen in the movie. And I was saying, I think it's the two of them in the car, period.
You're the non-happening guy.
And the hustler can't hustle the autistic. That's the basis of the movie. And so, so this is what happened. We're going to, he drops out, I get involved. We're just about go off to shoot, and we still have to do some rewriting. And there was a writer's strike. And so now you can't write. And so as a director, what you can do is just talk, you know. So like, for instance, I would say on a highway scene, I said, I don't like the highway because it's too boring on being on a highway, but that's the fastest way to get to LA is to take an interstate. But the back roads are more interesting looking. And they said, well, what are you going to do? It's the way you got to go. I said, well, what about if there's an accident on the highway? And then if he sees there's an accident, he's not getting back in the car.
That sounds like writing.
And so you're just talking premise. And then
But that's why the whole thing is so silly.
Yeah. But here's the key to it. Tom has never been thought of as somebody to, you know, ad lib. But that, if you take a segment like that, it's all ad lib. I just said to Dustin, you want to get out of the car, and you're not getting in the car until you get off the highway. And that's it. And then Tom, you're trying to deal with him, and then you're going to deal with the police, and you're telling you got to get him into the car. And that was it. So we would just shoot it and put it together.
You were the director made for a writer's strike. The one who can credibly claim I didn't write any of the shit.
So that's how it basically, came about because of the writer's strike, and then you're just trying to, fill in the scenes as you go along.
And this is when you became a Scientologist? All right. Well, I'm so glad we got to sit down together. I am such a fan, and you're just as entertaining to sit with as you are to watch, having directed all those great pictures.
This is a nice spot here.
Oh, this room is magical. I mean, it's everyone told me to tear it down when I bought this.
Really?
Place. Yeah, because it was full of termites and mold and
But how did you get the idea to do a podcast?
Everybody kept saying to me for years, you should do a podcast. And I'd be like, please, I have a television show. And they'd be like, yeah, but you don't get to talk about everything on that. And they were so right, because this is so different than the television show, which I do like specific preparation for and a lot of it. And this, I just get high and talk. And so it goes where it goes. And it doesn't have to be about politics. And I don't want it to be. I have a show for politics.
Right.
This is different. And so I get to, just talk with people like yourself, who I probably would never get the chance to do. I mean, it's just been a joy. So hope we do it again.
No, this was fun. I mean, first of all, I just realized that I'm not paying attention, but there's no camera person.
That was my idea.
That was a good idea.
I said, hide the cameras in the walls. I want people to forget, no other person in the room, no microphones in our face. And it does produce a level of intimacy I do not see anywhere else.
No.
Club Random.
I was about to say, so when do you want to start recording?
Club Random.